And he's like, those party members, they were guilty. Do you remember that? And he says, yes. And he's, um, just how many fingers I held up? You saw 5 fingers, right? And he says, yes. It's like, do you see 5 fingers now? He says, yes. And it's sad that it actually did work, but Winston still kind of has his fight that he wants to argue with Winston and not believe everything that he tells him, because O'Brien tells him that he doesn't exist, and he's like, I exist, I'm pretty sure. And he's like asking about Big Brother, like, does he exist in the same way I exist? And he wants to ask all these questions about where's Julia, does Big Brother exist, and everything like that, and what's in room 101. And this is where he says everybody knows what's in room 101, and you find out that in room 101 it is your biggest fear. And so you find out that Winston's biggest fear is rats. So he tortures him by putting him in a room full of rats, and so he says, the mask was closing on his face and the wire brushed his cheek, and then no, it was not relief, only hope, a tiny fragment of hope, too late, perhaps too late. But he had suddenly understood that in the whole world there was just one person to whom he could transfer his punishment, one body that he could thrust between himself and the rats, and he was shouting frantically over and over, do it to Julia, not me, Julia. I don't care what you do to her, tear her face off, strip her to the bones, not me, Julia, not me. And I wrote that this is just pure betrayal right here. Like his one love, he would sacrifice, he would kill because he wants to save himself. And so then later on he runs into Julia, and she tells him, I betrayed you, and he says, I betrayed you. So this is, I think, the most heartbreaking line in the entire book. Is sometimes, she said, they threaten you with something you can't stand up to, can't even think about, and then you say, don't do it to me, do it to somebody else, do it to so-and-so. Perhaps you might pretend afterwards that it was only a trick and that you just said it to make them stop and didn't really mean it. But that isn't true. At the time when it happens, you do mean it. You think there's no other way of saving yourself, and you're quite ready to save yourself that way. You want it to happen to the other person. You don't give a damn what they suffer. All you care about is yourself. All you care about is yourself, he echoed. So I just thought that was a really heartbreaking scene right there, and I don't really know what to think about it, because kind of makes you think, like, putting yourself in their shoes. What would you do if you were in a room with your biggest fears and people were torturing you, and like the only way out is by telling them to do to somebody else, not you. And not only just somebody else, but someone else who you deeply love. I just thought that was really heartbreaking, that somebody can't, like, will do that. Like, even Winston, you kind of don't like him a lot then and there, but you realize, like, he has changed a lot. Like, he lost to the the outer party, because even at the end, he says, like, the long hoped for bullet was entering his brain, and he gazed up the enormous face. 40 years it had taken him to learn what kind of smile was hidden beneath the dark mustache. He had won the victory over himself. He loved Big Brother, when he kept saying that he hated Big Brother, but that's how the book ended. And I just did not... I guess I was expecting... No, I shouldn't have expected a happier ending, but that's what I'm left with. And I had to go outside and take a walk, because this is just a lot to kind of digest. And read because it's just awful. It's a really awful idea that people would do these things just because they're hungry for power and kind of control the weak, and which are the middle class people that have to obey the higher people. And that's kind of also like our system in our society now, because we have lower class, middle class, and upper class, and the 1% and the 99%, and everybody is like fighting to gain their equality because we don't necessarily have it. But what if like the stronger people get worse at controlling us, and to where it becomes this bad? I guess that's where I'm going at, and that's where it's kind of hard for me to find my words and my train of thought on that, but that's another topic, and that's just where I'm at in this book. I really enjoyed how the descriptions that Orwell used. It's very poetic, he's very descriptive, he's really to the point, like he doesn't miss a word, like he thinks about the word that he wants to use, and for every movement and every action and thing that's happening in the scene, it's so you can like see it like a scene play out in your mind. And I really like the type of verbs that he uses too, like wobble or jerky, or that's right, those aren't adjectives that he uses, you know, adjectives and verbs. Anyway, thank you. That's my annotation.